I call the member for Capalaba.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I dedicate this first speech to the memory of the following: Barnard Stewart, Cahill Gibbs, Bradley Smith, Michael Warburton, Emma Lovell, David Connolly, Scott Cadbury, Robert Brown, Kelsey Davies, Michaela Chandler, Cherie Robertson, Violene White, Rosemary Francides, my beloved son Matthew Field, his love partner Kate Ledbetter, and the treasured unborn baby, my grandson Miles. And on Miles, I'd like this House to know that despite an autopsy, a death certificate and a funeral, Queensland justice system did not recognise his life or his death. He was not classified as a statistic on that day. We know he was, and he needs to be acknowledged. For all those deaths since Australia Day 2021, juveniles have either been convicted or charged, and I acknowledge there are many more victims, including others before that dreadful day, and I dedicate this speech to them also. Some members are elected to the Assembly not knowing what they believe or who they'll fight for. Others discover that on the journey here. Others quite never do. But I stand here knowing what I stand for and knowing what I believe. I stand with victims. I believe in justice. And I'm here in this body of lawmakers because lawlessness can never, ever be accepted as the norm. It is what I feel in the depth of my bones. To the names I've spoken, I dedicate not just today, but every day I sit in this chamber. Politics is not a game to me. It's real life. I know the consequences of what we decide, of what we do, does really, really matter. And sometimes I've found in my life before Parliament, what can matter much to citizens is also what governments choose to ignore, play down, let fester, or turn a blind eye to. Mr Speaker, I'm the most unlikely member of Parliament to ever sat in this chamber. I'm 69 years of age. Until recently, I owned just one suit, which I dusted off for weddings, and that shrunk every time before every event. My most recent occupation was retired, and I was pretty good at that. I'm a typical Aussie granddad who thinks the best thing in the world is spending time with his grandkids. Yeah. We talk footy. They tell me about their teachers and adventures. They teach me about Taylor Swift and the Kid Leroy. And I learned their lingo too. A day of school, well, that's slay. See, kids, I knew I could put that into a speech. But if you approached me on my 65th birthday and offered me a choice of Powerball ticket or the odds of becoming a member of Parliament, I would have picked the Powerball ticket because that was more chance of that happening. But life took a turn that most Queenslanders now know. And when my life turned, I remember the example of my mum and dad, who when facing adversity simply sought to make the best of the cards that fate had played. An approach that seeks to make a better life for others, even when it hurts. On good days, bad days, and terrible days. That's what my wife Anne and I have tried to do. To prevent crime and lawlessness, to deliver justice, to keep our community safe and strong, and make life better for others. That's why I'm here. Mr Speaker, today I wanted to speak of three things: the party I belong, the community I serve, and the family I love. I'm but one of 24 members of Parliament new members of Parliament across the political divide. I've got to know them in the recent weeks. They all are extraordinary people, with broad life experiences, almost all LNP. I believe one of the reasons why we're so successful and why the people of Queensland voted for the Christopher Hurley LNP government at the last election is because the opposition leader, David, sought out and with people with experiences that matter. Police officers, nurses, teachers, councillors, small business owners, farmers, and someone like me. The Premier knows you make the best decisions when you're close to the community. Connection to the community, to people, real life experience matters. You know what's happening with the kids in school, teenagers, young adults in TAFE, travelling their utes or on buses, heading to work, visiting loved ones in hospital and paying bills that only seem to get bigger and bigger. And the reason I know that matters to the Premier is because he's genuine, caring, compassionate man. He's a man of his word who wants to change Queensland for the better. He's my boss, but he's also a friend. He's more than a boss and a friend, he's a leader. And he leads by example. He supported us, me, my family, and Kate's family from the very beginning of this stage of our life. And I want to thank him. 50 years ago, I did a 4-year apprenticeship. Hard times, great times, mates for life. This is my second apprenticeship. And I want the Premier to know I'm going to work hard, put my head down and bum up, and master this trade as well. Karen Williams, the former Redlands Mayor, and Katarina Carroll, former Police Commissioner, also supported us from day one, and they've been steady rocks of support. 2 people who have served the community, who know it, and have delivered for it. I wasn't the candidate for long. We only had 8 weeks to make a difference, and the local LNP membership embraced me from day one. Winning Capalaba was a team effort, massive volunteer effort. Seeing all those volunteers throughout the campaign on election day was very humbling. People who are freely giving their time, putting their trust in me. There are too many to name, but without my current campaign manager and team, I would not be here. So I want to give a special thanks to those guys, Robin Archer, Gary Hindle, Bob Nish, Jack Parton, and Peter Lindy. We share some of those old-fashioned but timeless values: mutual respect, hard work, reward for effort, giving back, and being able to raise a family in a safe community. Believing that Australia, well, actually Queensland, is the best place on earth, and it is. On that we all agree. Mr. Speaker, I know that most are familiar with the former member of Capalaba's comment on youth crime, and it was a reaction that inspired me to stand and run. But if I left a story there, that would be unfair to him. He and I disagreed on the direction of Queensland, but I learned in that campaign and in the handover that he was sort of a decent man. I wish him and his family well in the future. Mr. Speaker, there are many things you learn in the campaign, and I discovered that through meeting locals at the front door. Often I'd knock on the door. You'd hear a dog barking, and the door behind the screen would open. People would squint their eyes and say, "I know you." And I'd say, "What, Australia's Most Wanted?" That would break the ice. I said that because I was in the media so often advocating for victims of crime. And the media don't often get a good rap, but they've been treated me fairly and kindly, and I thank them. At one house, a lady came running down the hallway when she saw me knocking at the door. She pushed the screen door open and gave me a hug. She was in tears. The memory of her family's tragedy never left her. This happened 2 more times, except those ladies asked if they could hug me first. Funny enough, I knew I had this effect on women 50 years ago, but it just goes to show I haven't lost it. More seriously, on porches, people told me what mattered to them. Yes, they wanted justice for victims, past and present, and I thank the communities for their support of this priority. It's a shared priority. But they also wanted to see better infrastructure throughout Capalaba, better transport services, more social housing, more policing, and health services that can appropriately support our growing community. Capalaba is the best of Queensland. Our Redlands region was known for its farms. As the population grew, farms made way for families with backyard, homes filled with aspirational families working to build a good life. It's a community filled with small businesses who employ locals. I know it's not easy for small businesses. We must deliver ways of cutting red tape, reducing their taxes and making it easier for them to invest and employ more people to help strengthen their local economies. I know as a former builder that small businesses are not only the engine room of the economy, they embody the heart and soul of their communities too. We will also deliver in the area where people know I have most passion, youth justice, getting our schools and community services working better so fewer people take the wrong path. Many of these kids will benefit from early intervention programs. Unfortunately, some may not, and those who commit crimes must face them squarely. With punishment, but also gold standard rehabilitative programs, using the time behind bars to face their conscience and in turn make better choices. And I want victims in the justice system to be valued, to be consulted and to be listened to. All too often, our justice system knows how to clear the wreckage and the debris from the site of a crime, but it does not know what to do with the victims and their families. We feel as if we're the wreckage discarded on the side of the road. This must stop. I want perpetrators of crimes to understand the pain they have caused, because if they did so, it might just prompt them to change. If judges understood the importance of justice to healing, then they would deliver more appropriate sentences. For too many victims, they lose their joy and happiness when they lose their loved ones. They lose faith in Australia and their hope for the future when the system ignores their cries. For fairness and justice. To the people of Capalaba, I want you to know I'm about justice, and justice in all its forms. If your bank is giving you a hard time, I'm for you. If the council isn't listening, I'm on your side. If your loved one isn't getting the care they need, I'll stand by with you. We'll make Queensland a greater place by making it fairer for everyone. Now, I want to speak of my family. And we're going to do my best not to get too emotional here. I'm a sentimental old guy. I wear my heart on the sleeve. And I realise as I get older what wonderful parents I had. Dad's name was Royfield, Mum was Violet. Violet, not violent. Dad was large, typical, solid policeman, and was in the force for over 37 years before retiring at Wollongabba in 1971 as a detective inspector. He'd be amazed today, but then again, maybe not. He spent his life keeping people safe, putting himself in situations that were difficult, but he believed in policing, as do I. To the police in Capalaba and around the state, I want to say one thing. I've got your back, and I thank you for supporting our families. I know what you do, the sacrifices you make, and I respect it so much. At 69, I'm still a copper's kid. We grew up all over the place, spending time across parts of Queensland as far back as I can remember. Dad was stationed in Rockhampton, Cairns, Townsville, Longreach, and finally ended up in Brisbane at the end of 1967. Mum supported Dad every bit of the way. I know life was difficult for Mum, moving house every couple of years. Once getting to know the locals, it was time to move again. She enjoyed cooking as mothers did of the day, and we all gave it a go when we could. I have an older sister, one older brother, and one younger brother. We were scattered all around Queensland at times, but we're all back in Brisbane now. Coral, Hume and Grant have always been wonderful supporters of mine. The biggest moment in my life occurred in October 1976. I went on a footy trip, an end-of-season cruise with all my mates around the South Pacific. Yep, I was a bit of a lad then. But on that cruise I met Anne. Anne was with a mum who was somewhat suspicious of the footy lad who had taken a liking to her daughter. It took a few months, but I won her over too. Kit was a wonderful mother-in-law and Charles was a father-in-law. We were married in 1980 on the 15th of March. And for those who know Shakespeare, there's a turn of phrase relating to the assassination of Julius Caesar. Beware the Ides of March. I have to confess, I didn't beware them. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the wonderful life Anne and I built together. We are each other's rock. We've now been married for over 44 years. We've raised 3 wonderful children, Andrew, Matthew and Kimberly. We are an Aussie rules family. Andrew and Matthew played Aussie rules for years, and Kimberly played for a couple of seasons when she was younger. At one point, our weekends were spent balancing 3 different kids in 3 different football teams, chaotic and wonderful. Anne was always involved in the canteen at the footy club or at the school tuck shop. I'd run boundary, whatever ground the boys were playing. As well as football, Kimberly took up dancing, but Matthew and Andrew were always AFL players. Andrew did go on for a couple of years and play rugby league, but he realised he was going to get hurt if he didn't stop. Our Easters were spent camping, and we'd go away with all our friends and families. And on some years, the numbers would be between 70 and 80. During those times, there weren't portable fridges, solar panels, or even batteries. It was all campfires. Now we're proud grandparents, and I want to give all to our grandchildren a shout out. There's Olivia, Molly and Duke. There's Andrew's and Nicole's children. Olivia and Molly do dance most days. And I say this as someone not biased. Olivia and Molly are beautiful dancers, and I enjoy watching them. Dukey loves soccer and bike riding. He's a bit of a dynamo, and my little mate, and he looks spiffy in his soccer gear. There's also Jasper and Van, who are the children of our beautiful daughter Kimberly and her wonderful husband Alex. Jasper starts preschool next year, and Van is still at kindy 3 days a week. They play soccer on Mondays, go swimming every Friday. They like bike riding as well. Now, I know grandkids groan at my bad dad and granddad jokes, but I know they love coming around to Papa and Grandma's place. The girls like sewing with Anne and cooking, making a mess. Duke, Jasper and Van all like playing on the bikes, running around the yard, kicking the ball and making a noise. Can I let you in on a secret? We love having you around more than you can imagine. The joy, the innocence, the hope. It's like an elixir for Anne and I. Kids, it's your love and your parents that keep us going. And the lesson in life, for life, when you might look at this speech years from now, is that in tough times, it's family that keeps you going. Now for the hard part. Talking about 4 members of the family who aren't in this gallery, but are in our hearts. Queen Elizabeth was right when she said grief is the price we pay for love. We lost our eldest son, Andrew, this year. With brain cancer. Diagnosed and operated in May last year. Passed away in June 2024. Andrew was a mighty man. He was an electrician in the commercial sector. He would sit down, have a beer, talk about work, play, and everything in general. A hard worker and a good family man. He was a strong, super fit lifesaver. The Point Lookout Surf Lifesaving Club only recently competed in the 2024 World Lifesaving Championships. They dedicated their efforts to him with a t-shirt that read, "Racing for Ratty." Ratty was his nickname. He'd be so chuffed. Olivia, Molly and Duke, your father was a great man. And as you know, we lost Matthew, Kate and Miles on Australia Day nearly 4 years ago. Very different circumstances. A terrible crime committed by an out-of-control, selfish juvenile. We didn't just lose them, but Kate's parents did too. Kate's parents, Jeannie and John, and their spouses will always be part of our family. If any of the members in this chamber had met Matthew, you would have liked him. Matthew was working in the domestic housing market and employed apprentices to pass on his knowledge. With Kate, he was in the process of renovating their home. Kate was an interior designer and decorator, so it all went hand in hand. They'd completed all upstairs and the nursery was all decked out ready for Miles. What a wonderful job they had done. Matthew was besotted in Kate. They were the perfect match for each other. They were so looking forward to welcoming Miles. None of us ever met Miles, but he lives in my heart and Anne's too. I can see him in my mind's eye. He sustains me, and we'll meet one day. Mr. Speaker, there's sadness, there's grief, but there's love too. And I've been carried by the love of my family, by the strangers I've met, and by the people across the community and politics, and Queensland who have shared their kindness and supported me. My job is to leave a legacy for Matt, Kate and Miles, and in a different way, Andrew. My job is not to let them down, and I'll do my best not to let the good people of Capella down either. And I promise you that. Thank you. Yeah.